What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Neon Spotlight. This is the segment on my channel where I go back through the Neon production company's entire filmography from the first film they produced all the way until whenever I get caught up. And I was really excited to watch the film I'm going to be talking about with you today because one of the things I've really appreciated about Neon so far in their catalog is despite not loving every movie that they've released, they really focus heavily on documentary. And this documentary in particular was very intriguing to me because it's about Aretha Franklin and it's specifically about her recording her gospel record. And I love Aretha's music. I think that she was one of the most talented human beings to ever live. Her voice is just so immediately distinguishable. And I feel like there's so many, musicians throughout history that like you can just feel the passion in their voice when they sing. And you can just see throughout Aretha's career how much her music truly impacted people. And this, I feel like, is much less of a documentary and much more of just a concert performance, which is fine with me because, as I've discussed before, and I don't get to talk about it a lot on here because I don't really review. I did a couple of little album reviews a long time ago just for fun. But music is a huge part of my life, and music probably played a larger role in my life early on than film did. I really started to fall in love with film when I was like 17, 18 years old, where music had been a big part of my life since as early as like 7 and 8 years old. And I love music. I love music of all genres and styles and backgrounds. And so I'm always looking forward to, even if I don't know a lot about an artist, which in this particular case, I know quite a bit about Aretha Franklin, which made me even more excited to watch it. But I love seeing artists practice their craft in a very raw and authentic way. So I couldn't wait to watch this, and I'm really excited to tell you about Amazing Grace today. Amazing Grace is directed by Alan Elliott, a behind-the-scenes documentary about the recording of Aretha Franklin's best-selling album finally sees the light of day more than 4 decades after the original footage was shot. So I was super excited to watch this. Like I said, I love Aretha Franklin's music. I think that she was just a once in a lifetime talent. Anytime I hear her voice in a song, I just feel incredibly moved by it. And this was a very great watch. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I think, some people that go into it with a mindset of thinking they're going to get a documentary and like she's going to get interviewed throughout, or people that had witnessed the concert are going to get talked to. That's not what it is. It's really just seeing this record be recorded in real time with like some cuts in between where you like see her talking to people on stage. Her father ends up coming to speak at one point, her talking to the minister that's on stage performing with her. And so it's so much more about experiencing the music. And so that's really all there is to this, is like you're dropped in. There's a title card sequence at the beginning that says like, Aretha, one of the biggest R&B and soul selling artists of all time, like going through her hits. And she went to, I believe this was filmed in Harlem, and she decided that because of her roots and her father being a minister, that she wanted to record a gospel album because of the importance of it to her in her youth and getting to where she was as an artist. And so we see that they've invited a real crowd. They talk to the crowd and say, hey, the reason why we brought you here is to record and like get a very live, raw, real reaction from the audience. Aretha wanted it to feel very alive. And so they encourage the audience to clap and get excited and react to the music. And then we just see Aretha's performance over the course of 2 days. And what I will say is this is a showcase of one of the most talented artists of all time performing their craft in a way that just feels so personal. And that's something that I loved so much about this. Is Aretha obviously has some of the biggest hits of all time when you go back through and look at her catalog. But seeing her perform music that was so near and dear to her heart and such a big part of who she was growing up, and like her father being a minister, it just really was moving to watch her sing. Like you could feel just the palpable emotion in each and every song. and it's all in her face. It's just like the way she sings and like the moment she closes her eyes and how she reacts to the audience. And then the other part I really loved about watching this was like the audience reaction. I mean, people would just break down crying in the middle of these songs. And, obviously, I've discussed this before. I was raised in a conservative Christian household. I do not practice religion. I'm not involved in the church anymore. But I was involved in music when I was at the church. I actually played drums in a praise band when I was involved in the church. And so I've seen the way that this type of music can impact people. And sometimes it's the music, and sometimes it's the person performing the music. And in this case, it was really interesting because at this period in time, Aretha was really kind of on her up and up, and like she's very well known. And so I'm sure there's a lot of people who were impacted by just her mere presence and seeing this performed in a live way, but also just like the raw emotionality behind gospel music and what it's trying to say about the relationship between person and creator. And I think it's really interesting to watch. Like as someone who doesn't feel spirituality anymore, it's like cool to see through someone else how that impacts them in a very raw and visceral way. And Aretha, obviously, it doesn't matter what she's singing about, she could move someone with anything just because of that raw and pure talent of her voice. And I thought there was a really brilliant moment in this where her father got on stage to speak, and you can just see the love that he had for his child and just the admiration for her and her talent. And I thought that was really neat. The setting of this just feels so alive, like people sweating, and like while Aretha singing, people coming up on stage and like wiping the sweat off of her so that she could continue to perform. You just felt like you were in the room with the audience, which is why I feel like it was such a visceral experience to witness. And there's a lot of great songs in this, ones you've probably heard, some you might not have ever heard before. But I really just appreciated being along the ride for this entire musical journey. And I think it's interesting just to see Aretha perform, because she was an incredible human being in her life that gave a lot of time and effort and money to some really amazing causes. She was very vocal about her support for a lot of incredible causes. Just a very special person who I'm glad I got to see this type of thing in its raw form. I think Neon's so cool with some of the things that they get a hold of and are able to release. And I think if you're a fan of music, even if you don't know a lot about Aretha Franklin in general, it'd be very hard to watch this and not feel something. And I think you 100% should if any of this sounds interesting to you. So, have you seen Amazing Grace? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this was a really fantastic documentary slash concert performance that I'm very glad I watched. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.